Right, I will start. Well, welcome everybody to this cosy meeting. I will let Miles explain why I'm sitting here in the chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Before we come to the apologies, I just wish to draw the committee's attention to the fact that the Chair and the Deputy Chair are not present at the meeting. In accordance with section 4.1 of the Constitution and the Procedure Standing Orders point 13.4, in the absence of the Chair or Deputy Chair, the meeting may elect a Chair to preside at the meeting from amongst the voting members of the committee. I note, Councillor, that you have very kindly indicated your willingness to chair the meeting. As such, the following resolution is to be put to the committee. Resolve that the committee agree that Councillor Patterson chair the meeting. Can I just check amongst the voting members of the committee that you are content to agree that recommendation? Thank you. That's carried.
Thank you, Miles. Right, I will start on the agenda then. And can I have any apologies for absence?
Apologies for absence, Chair, have been received from Mayor Tracy Brabin, Councillors Susan Hinchcliffe, James Scullion, James Lewis, Denise Jeffrey and their respective substitutes, Councillors Imran Khan, Scott Patient, Jonathan Pryor and Matthew Morley, and also just to note Councillor Dacre is present at the meeting as an observer.
Right, thank you. On to declarations of interest. Has anyone got any declarations of interest? No? Okay, well we'll move on then to the exempt information. I believe there's nothing, no exempt information here, so it's all this meeting will be held in public. Okay, so that's on to the minutes. Are there any comments on those minutes? And if not, are we happy to agree those as a correct record?
Can I just ask something?
Sorry, yeah.
It said that there was going to be a report on the workforce strategy coming to, I think it meant this meeting. Is that the draft resourcing and talent strategy?
It is.
Yeah, because I wasn't here. Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Okay, so that's the minutes agreed, and we will go on to the first item, which is an item for a decision on the governance arrangements. Though having said it's a decision item, really I think the decision's already been made for us at the actual combined authority, the full board meeting, and this is really here for us to note. But Satinder, can I ask you to speak to this, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'm grateful. So the agenda item before you are the governance arrangements, as the Chair has indicated, that were agreed by the combined authority on the 19th of June this year at its AGM. You will see appendices 1 and 2 to the report that set out the membership and composition to include the terms of reference for this committee. This committee is requested to note the arrangements agreed by the combined authority at the AGM in June this year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Satinder. Are there any comments on that? Jocelyn?
Can I just confirm there are no actual changes to the terms of reference from the previous version?
I can confirm that's the case. Thank you.
Okay, well, are we happy then to note the governance arrangements that were approved by the combined authority on the 19th of June? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item 6, which is the organisation performance 25-26 quarter 1 update. And sorry, Ruth.
Thank you, Chair. So, as you stated, the purpose of the report is to provide an update on the changes that have been made to performance reporting to align to the corporate plan that was approved by the combined authority in May of this year, and also to provide an update on performance at the end of quarter 1. The changes that have been made mean that reporting will now take place against 25 corporate plan priorities, and those priorities have been mapped against the West Yorkshire Plan missions. There is also a 6th mission that we've tasked ourselves with as an organisation, which is around being an ambitious, high-performing and value-for-money organisation. The report details the 25 priorities in full, and I therefore don't propose to go through them in detail. But what you will note from the report is that the quarter 1 performance has been brag rated against those 25 priorities. So the committee will note that performance is relatively strong, with 22 priorities showing as being on track for delivery overall. Amongst the priorities, there are some key delivery milestones that have been met during quarter 1. So the launch of the Weaver brand, detailed contract work is on track for the bus franchising tender launch in October. One Creative North report was launched with support from the Great North Coalition of Mayors, and significant regeneration projects have progressed, such as the Sports Tech Incubator at Carnegie Sports School, which was approved by committee. Strategic outline case for phase 2 of Bradford City Village is undergoing review in the combined authorities appraisal process, and Gasworks Street South is undergoing feasibility work. 5,893 learners have also received support through employment and skills interventions. Now going to turn to the 3 priority areas that are currently showing challenges within the delivery programme. And I will start with bus franchising, which can be found at page 34 of the pack for this committee. In terms of that priority area, the key issues that are causing the challenges to performance are the asset purchase scheme within the programme, and also the interdependencies within the programme work stream. Work is currently being done to strengthen business case around the depot and fleet strategy after the assurance process has raised some queries as to how that work moves forward. And the review of the interlocking work streams has now taken place to try and unpick some of the interdependencies that were causing an issue, and work is being done to review what fits within each of those work streams. On page 37, the second priority that is showing some challenges to delivery is the capital transport programme. 3 key challenges are outlined in the report in terms of that programme. One is the bus franchising programme and the financial impact that that is going to have on the model. Be understood, which are actually now subject to a workshop that is taking place to define the connectivity between the overall programme and mass transit. And thirdly, the implications of the brand rollout on the capital programme, which again is undergoing some internal work to try and ensure that that those issues are reviewed and resolved. The strategy, which can be found on page 38 of the report. Key challenges within that priority are as a result of delays in asset surveys to our current assets, and the real issue that that causes is impact on the budget planning and the medium-term financial strategy. There is a provider in place to undertake those asset surveys, and current discussions are happening to try and overcome the issue and ascertain what could be done to speed up the delivery of those surveys within year. As I'm sure the committee will understand, underneath those 25 high-level priorities, there are then a number of projects that sit within each priority. When we have reviewed current performance, there is only one project at present that is showing as not being deliverable within this financial year. That particular project is the West Yorkshire Housing Partnership work, which was aimed at delivering 1,500 solar panels to accommodation, obviously to support some of our residents that are facing challenges in terms of bills and warmth within homes. The programme is still on track to deliver, but actually delivery is being extended into 26-27, and therefore it's being shown as red in terms of delivery for this financial year. The reason for the issues within that key project are as a result of a change that's had to happen in terms of a key contract supplier. There have also been some challenges within the Yorkshire Housing Partnership, which meant one partner had to withdraw from the scheme. So the deliverables have been transferred to one of the other partners, but that has obviously had a consequential delay in delivery. I think it would be fair to note that in terms of that particular programme, there is a future risk that's been noted in reporting, which is about a national issue that's not within our gift to overcome. And that relates to, although we're currently saying that we would deliver by June of 26, there is some future risk to that date as a result of Northern Power Grid's capacity to sign off some of the applications that they need to operators within the scheme. Overall, in terms of performance, there are two key themes that come out across reporting. One is linked to capacity and resourcing within the organisation, and that does continue to cause a risk to performance, particularly impacted by the uncertainty that we received from the government spending review. Although some significant announcements were made, we still don't have the detail of what that actually means for West Yorkshire. The organisation, however, is continuing to ensure that it manages delivery, but within a prudential budgetary decision-making process. The other key theme that came out was mentioned in relation to bus franchising, and that's programme interdependencies. So the scale of programmes overseen by the combined authority has obviously increased, both in terms of number and complexity, and that does lead to quite a mesh of interdependencies between the programmes. Committee will be well aware that senior leadership has been strengthened within the organisation to build the capacity and knowledge and experience to overcome the challenge. I won't go through it in detail, but the report does set out quite a detailed response that the organisation has to those cross-cutting challenges, including prioritisation exercise that the organisation is currently doing around the activity that we're going to do in 25-26, but also in subsequent years. And then secondly, the organisation is also starting to work towards an operational model that will allow more flexible deployment of resource to strengthen project and programme delivery within the organisation. And I know the committee has a further report on that within this meeting.
Thank you, Ruth, for that very comprehensive report and detail there. I mean, overall, though, performance is good, and we are meeting our priorities, bar those exceptions that you've just talked about. So, and that is pleasing to see that most of those priorities are actually on the way. Any other comments? Jocelyn?
I would suggest that there's also another theme in risk that seems to arise from the underperforming areas, and that would be dependence on suppliers in the way of both the solar panels and also the asset surveys. So can you reassure me about what process is in train to make sure that the authority isn't dependent on single suppliers?
So I would say that in terms of suppliers, that's actually, I think, an issue that's highlighted on our corporate risk register, to my knowledge. So it is something that I think has come through in previous performance reports through to this committee. So I think that in terms of our frameworks that are, and Kate may wish to come into this a little bit further, but we have quite robust frameworks in terms of our suppliers to try and ensure that we have robustness. I think in particular in terms of the two things that you've outlined, the Home Energy West Yorkshire programme, which is around solar panels, have done a review of the experience here and incorporated the lessons learned into their programme overall, and also shared it at directors' meetings to ensure that that's organisational knowledge. Kate, I don't know if you want to speak more fully on procurement.
Yeah, thank you, Ruth. I think in terms of certainly where we can spread risk, where there are multiple suppliers within there, we do try to do that and ensure that we are kind of looking at a wide range of there, as Ruth said, through frameworks, etc. in there. I think there are some issues somewhere in some of these areas. There are, particularly in the home energy, for example, where actually there aren't always lots of suppliers within there, and sometimes there aren't as many suppliers as the market demand is actually needing within, and that can bring us some issues, but I guess the assurance is we are bringing these to you at this point and managing those issues within there.
Just to follow on, it was a good question, and obviously as a lawyer, refreshing those suppliers and looking to see how we mitigate that is a very, very important factor, and it's keeping a relationship going because we've agreed on procurement is one thing, but refreshing that to ensure that we've actually got the best, rather than moving a delivery date, have we done much to mitigate and see if we can come out of that and not keep not meeting targets as a result of external factors such as that.
So active part of contract management effectively to work for teams to do that in terms of getting out of those contracts. You know, that will always a coordinated effort between kind of legal, commercial, finance and delivery teams to look at what that best solution would be and whether that is possible. I suppose whether it's sometimes when we come out of that, that doesn't necessarily mean that there will be somebody actually ready and willing to do, and obviously the timelines then depending on the value around public procurement and what we have to do to be able to ensure that we are compliant in those methods as well. But absolutely we do look at every single option to do those and to bring those on track.
Can I just add, and if it helps you, albeit not directly related to your question, I do think it's relevant in terms of existing suppliers. Both myself, Kate and Ben as statutory officers, we examine any business case to renew or extend existing contracts with suppliers. We examine them very carefully through the lens of best value and value for money. And if it helps you, that analysis is quite robust.
Again, to add, and hopefully give some confidence that we're trying to look at things, we do look at things from a cross unit perspective. We have specifically resourced in this area too around asset management very recently, and are looking for somebody so that we've actually got that one person who is looking across our asset management strategy and plan, and that I think forward planning is a big part of trying to make sure that you can anticipate risks before they become issues. We can never control the market, but we really are. It's a really important point for us. So just wanted to add that too.
Sylvia, you wanted to come in?
Yes, it's a separate issue, so if we're all finished on...
As any more?
Okay, yes, sorry about this, but it might not surprise you that it's the affordable, accessible and reliable public transport that caught my attention, because you'll appreciate that Calderdale coming last on the franchising, and therefore this is a particular concern to them. And it's blue, yet at the same time it's conceding that there are huge risks in there because of potential cuts to commercial services. And I know some of that's happened in Calderdale, and the West Yorkshire have tried to fill the gap by paying for some of those services, which I assume is where that 30 million expenditure that you mentioned in the KPIs goes. Some of that goes on that. But in a way, to me, looking at it from a Calderdale, but not just a Calderdale perspective, that risk to existing services and the shrinking of the bus service before you get to franchising is such a huge risk for the authority. And so I was sort of surprised it was blue, but then when you told me kind of beforehand what the performance indicators sitting behind that blue are, then they don't actually reflect the risk of losing services at all, that they're not, so you wouldn't expect. I can see that the authority's meeting those, therefore it will be blue. So I suppose what I'm saying is there's perhaps a disconnect between what sits behind the blue and what members of the public might expect to sit behind the blue. And I suspect some of that is taken into account elsewhere in risk registers, and I'm pretty sure it is, because I remember we discussed this at another meeting. But I suppose I'm just trying to highlight that if you're a member of the public listening or looking at these papers, you might be a bit surprised by that blue.
Ruth?
Yes, so we have an internal performance board that reviews all of the projects that sit under this. So when we spoke about there's two lots of KPIs that sit behind the blue. One is the corporate plan performance indicators, but then there are a number of significant milestones that sit behind it that are held by our Affordable Transport Director. So actually it's the merging of those that lead to it being a blue, and some of the things that you are concerned about in terms of providers withdrawing services and how we maintain services whilst moving into a franchise system sit in the other reporting lines that sit within that. So both do come together to form the blue. What we have done as a performance board recently is we have looked at future risk, and the risk that you have articulated has come as one of the future risks coming towards us. And as a internal performance board, we have reviewed that particular issue to seek assurance, and that's why we didn't change it from blue to amber, because we did have that second point of assurance around that particular point. And some of the things that came out from that was about the resourcing, repositioning within the organisation to make sure that both ongoing service and bus franchising can happen at the same time. And secondly, what came out was the reallocation of funding between introducing new provision and maintaining old, and switching the balance between those two things to making sure that maintaining the old is really critical at this point in time as we make the transition to franchising, and that the innovation and movement going forward would come after franchising has been brought into play.
Thank you. Are there any more comments? No? In that case, can I ask if members are happy to note the Combined Authorities revised reporting and organisational performance indicators for 25-26, and to note the Q1 performance against key performance indicators for 25-26? Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So moving on to management information data. This is an update on the HR management information. Workforce performance, well-being and diversity are absolutely central to the Combined Authority's ability to deliver for the people of West Yorkshire. And as the report shows, overall sickness absence remains low compared to regional and sector benchmarks, which is very encouraging. It's also great to see the steps that have been taken to support staff's well-being, particularly around mental health, and the positive impact of initiatives in the wellbeing strategy. Retention rates are another real highlight. Up to 94% of our people stay with the organisation in their first year, and 88% after 2 years. A strong sign that our induction and support processes are working well and helping our teams to thrive. I'm also delighted to see the real progress on diversity and inclusion, of particular importance. Our workforce continues to become more representative of West Yorkshire, reflecting a broad range of backgrounds, experiences and perspectives, something we should celebrate as a major achievement. Recruitment and onboarding are also moving in the right direction. We're striking a good balance between bringing in fresh talent and supporting internal development and promotion. This shows our commitment to growing and nurturing people, and ensures the Combined Authority continues to be a great place to work. And at that point, can I ask, I hope I haven't stolen your thunder, Joe, but can I ask you to take us through the recommendations, please?
Thank you, Councillor. That was a fabulous summary, and I absolutely don't want to repeat them because it's pretty much long. We're very happy with the progress we're making. Have added the retention stats, and we'll look to enhance the report over time as well as we develop the workforce strategy. Very conscious there's a lot of change going on, so it is still something that we will not take our eye off the ball here. Change is an opportunity as well as a threat, but there's lots of things that make people feel uncomfortable. So we're really conscious of trying to make sure that we really understand that as we go through changes into potential single settlement devolution, understanding where our priorities are in terms of capability and workforce. But it is a really positive story to say at the moment. So I have nothing else to add, to be honest, apart from asking members to acknowledge the report.
Thank you, Joan. Any comments
questions?
from anyone? Sylvia?
Thank you. So just on the sickness absence, the most recurrent reason was stress, depression. So there's two questions. This is the first one. Have you any indication of whether that is work-related or outside of work-related stress and depression? Because obviously that makes a difference to how you might be able to deal with it, and I know it can be very difficult to find that out. And the second point is that the second most recurrent reason is unknown, and what's being done to make managers record the reason, because how on earth can you possibly deal with it if they're not recording the reason?
Thank you. Two very, very good questions. It's really difficult sometimes for people to want to share that level of information. That doesn't mean to say that we don't try and put as many things in place as we can. We do have an employee assistance programme which is very independent to us, so they do supply us with data and on how many people have potentially contacted them. But again, the data that we get from them to make sure that we encourage people to use it and that it is confidential. We've got that conundrum all the time. So in answer to your question, we can't split that out at the moment, but that's not something that we don't try informally to continue to work through and on a personal level with the personal supervision. We also encourage and have a well-being mindset, I think it's called. It's just gone from which we again also encourage people to do, which is very specific to people who have experienced any kind of particular mental health stresses. And again, we are in contact with them all the time to try and help understand from the basic data that they'll give us anything we can glean and learn from that to actually address back in the workplace. I think my final your final question is key, and it's around how we develop our service heads and leaders who are that first point of contact for people when either they go off or come back into work, or when we're talking to people about how we support them. We continue to work on that. I think my key point would be there's been a lot of growth in that area, so there's quite a lot of potentially new service heads that we're actually developing in role. So that will continue, and especially in that particular area where it says unknown. Is that because why are people not telling us why they're off, and how do we get to the bottom of that? So it's definitely an ongoing area that the business partners are working with the heads of service on to try and identify. Thank you.
Jocelyn?
Following on from Sylvia's point, the retention rates are great, but when I would like to see the stats on exit about people's reasons when you can find them out at exit interview, and does that follow on from mental health and wellbeing issues possibly? Is that our greatest risk for losing people, especially in this time of uncertainty?
Thank you, yeah, great point, and it's not something that we've captured today fully, but I've started to do so now in terms of quite a formal process to actually capture that people's feedback as and when they leave the organisation. Thank you.
Ashma?
Do you have the stats for sickness absence when it's mental health or depression related as to term of service? Is it those that are been with us longer or those that are starting? I say that because we started an initiative at work in terms of buddy up, and we found that somehow that works better because you're working alongside someone that's been in the organisation longer. You get a lot more feedback if there are some issues evolving later. So I'd be interested to know whether it's those that have been with us for a long time, or whether it's people that are coming in that are finding it a little bit overwhelming.
That's not how we look at it. at the moment, but it's definitely something that I will take back and consider, because we do look at many other things in terms of age profile, as you'll see from the report. We also have staff network groups that we work with really quite closely to get that direct feedback, and each one of those is sponsored by, so I'm sponsored for the Young Employees Network, for example, and it's great getting them involved and having a buddy up. But actually it's been about probably maybe more focused on embedding them in the organisation rather than maybe asking them some questions like that. So it's a really good point and something I'll take back. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, you mentioned age profile there, and that's exactly a point I was just going to make. I mean, it's great that retention rates are so good, but of course it means we have a very static, not just age profile, any profile. It leaves little room to bring in younger people or people from different backgrounds, etc., etc. But so it swings and roundabouts there, isn't it?
It definitely is, but to try and reassure you on that too, we are working really hard at the moment, and it's quite a big cultural difference on trying to put in more matrix working, so that actually we are moving people around the organisation so they get more opportunities to work in different areas, and we get their expertise too from actually being able to move them around projects. So that's one way that we're trying to actually spread knowledge and also keep retention, but not leave people in, if they don't want to, not leave people in the same jobs for a long period of time. So it's a bit more job enrichment and enlargement rather than a hierarchical process.
Oh, that's good to hear. If there are no more questions, can I just ask if members are content to note the information provided on the performance? Or HR, I should say. And I just, Satinder wanted to have a quick word.
Thank you, Chair. Members, forgive me, I've spotted an anomaly with the governance arrangements report. So, page 12, paragraph 3.5, there is a missing reference to the date of this committee's next meeting, which is on the 27th of November. I will ensure that the minutes of this meeting reflect my bringing that anomaly to your attention. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Miles, I'm sure you'll do that. Thank you. Okay, well now we are on to item 8, which is financial performance. And I mean, I know that maintaining a strong and balanced financial position is critical to our ability to deliver for the people of West Yorkshire. And I want to thank the finance team for their work in monitoring and managing our budget so closely. As the report confirms, overall we are on track to deliver a balanced year-end position with a small net surplus at the end of Q1 due to timing differences in income and expenditure. And this is encouraging, definitely, and demonstrates that our financial management processes are working effectively. The report also highlights some adjustments that have been made during the quarter, including the way staff costs are accounted for and how reserves are being managed. Mitigating actions have been implemented quickly to ensure that these changes do not impact our ability to deliver key priorities. On the capital side, we continue to see strong delivery across major programmes such as CRSTS, Transforming Cities, West Yorkshire Plus Transport Fund and the Brownfield Housing Fund. Spend remains largely on track and aligned to the budget, which is reassuring as we progress through the year. Looking forward, the medium-term financial plan is being refreshed to reflect changes in funding and key assumptions. While the outlook for future years remains challenging, we are well placed to manage risks through careful planning and evidence-based decision and strong financial oversight. So, Kate, can I ask if you'd like to take us through the recommendations, please?
Thank you, Chair. So this is our first report of this current financial year, so updating on the financial performance on the year to date and also looking forward on the Q1 forecast. It covers both capital and revenue. As the Chair has outlined, in the year to date position, there is an impact around timing variances which effectively net off within the forecast to nil, so doesn't kind of the surplus that is there is not a surplus in there. As part of the continuous improvement, we will be looking at actually how we do our budget phasing, looking forward into 26, 27 to try and make sure we don't get those large variances due to timing going forward in there. Very pleasingly that the quarter one position is balanced within there. There are some slightly large swings within, and what I would just bring the committee's attention to that in balancing up against the changing approach to capitalisation, one of the ways that we have done that is actually reducing our expected transfer to reserves at year end, and which, while necessary to be able to absorb the fiscal shock kind of in year, obviously that does impact on our future financial resilience if we are not building that resilience for there. So just to kind of note that while absolutely good for this year, we will continue to review that through the year. Any kind of upswings in, we will report back through the further forecasts, and at a later point in the year actually bring to you what our proposal is around the reserve strategy as well for the surplus or any differences that we have through there. Within the capital, the performance is largely positive across there, with programmes accelerating, I think particularly with CRCS now in its second to last year of delivery as well, which is pleasing to see for that. Medium-term financial plan, we are currently just reviewing that, rebasing it, making sure it reflects all of our current assumptions and all of our current performance. We are also waiting for confirmation of the integrated settlement quantum that will come in from April 26 to help kind of provide that missing jigsaw piece around our funding going forward. But happy to take any questions, Chair. Thank you.
Any questions, comments? Jocelyn?
Yes, could you give me a bit more detail about enabling services and the changes and the variance that's in there? You've mentioned that there's saving from vacancies, but that doesn't cover what I can see in the movement table 3. And also, for the benefit of people who may be watching, can you explain what enabling services is?
Absolutely. So our enabling services effectively are, it's what we refer to as our corporate centre. So my team, Joe's team, for example, Satinder's team, our ITS team, Ruth's team sits within there. So those services that provide services that go across the whole range of combined authority business in there. In terms of, yeah, you're right, so where the capitalisation impact, so the overall £14.5 million impact that we saw, that is the change in capitalisation, the bulk of it actually sits within that enabling services because of the change in methodology, and enabling because of the nature of what support service, I guess, or back office, to use a term I hate, in terms of that functions do, that tends to have an impact more on capitalisation because of providing that direct link that you are kind of creating that asset from a capitalisation perspective versus active delivery in there. So they have, yeah, that's been the area that was most adversely affected by the change of approach.
Thank you. Sylvia?
Yeah, so just following on from the capitalisation, again, for my benefit, because I haven't been around when this was discussed previously, and for the benefit of anybody listening, what do you actually mean when you're talking about capitalising those staff costs? What are you actually doing with them?
So the accounting standards that we have to abide by allow for certain costs to be capitalised and effectively put on our balance sheet, recognised as the cost of bringing an asset into use, and then they are depreciated over what we deem to be the life of that asset. So it effectively spreads the cost over what, you know, if it's 10, 15 years, the life of that asset to go. Where you cannot, you take the cost in full to your income and expenditure in year and recognise all of that full cost in there. The accounting standards are very strict and have got significantly stricter over probably the last 10 years in terms of what you are allowed to capitalise within there. So you have to have a very strong audit trail within there, you know, kind of can you prove timesheets, can you prove that person was actually working on there for it. So we have to be very robust around it. I have to be very robust, because otherwise I would be sitting in governance and audit committee probably with a problem on my accounts in terms of that. So all of your finance directors will always have a very keen eye on that. And that is not to say those people are not doing good work, you know, kind of, it's never about actually people not doing the work, it's actually about how we manage within those accounting standards and the rules.
Thank you, Chair. If I may just provide a bit more context in terms of a real-world example. So, for example, in my area, I have a legal team that provides support and legal advice to mass transit, to include bus franchising as well. The majority of those lawyers are funded from capital funds. So, because they are directly supporting delivery of capital projects. So that scenario doesn't apply to other teams who are funded by revenue-based funding. So I hope that helps in terms of further context by way of a real-world example.
So, yeah. Yes, thank you. It was that point that I'd always seen, in my authority, I'd always seen capitalisation as relating to particular capital projects, and so it is exactly the same. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Questions? No? Okay. Well, in that case, are our members content to note the revenue and capital financial position as of the 30th of June 25, and note the Q1 forecast positions for revenue and capital, and note the update on the medium-term financial plan? Yes? Okay, thank you very much. Right, moving on to item 9, which is the draft resourcing and talent strategy. Fancy title, that. I know that having the right people and the right skills and support is absolutely key to delivering for the people of West Yorkshire, and the report shows that we are taking a proactive and strategic approach to make sure our workforce is ready for today and tomorrow. We're aligning our people with major programmes, planning ahead for future skills, and embedding equality, diversity and inclusion at the heart of everything we do. I'm particularly excited about our focus on talent pipelines, upskilling and reskilling our teams, and strengthening leadership. These initiatives will help us to attract and retain the very best people, build resilience in critical roles, and make the combined authority a truly inspiring and inclusive place to work. I think has already been shown. This strategy is about more than just meeting immediate needs. It's about creating a skilled, flexible and dynamic workforce that will drive our ambitions as a strategic authority, deliver on exciting programmes and continue to set the standard across West Yorkshire. So, Jo, can I ask you to take us through the recommendations, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes. So this is the first time we've shared something on our resourcing and talent, and really important to us is definitely based on the challenges that we are going to be delivering in the future. It's about managing risk and as well as looking after our employees and workforce. So I wanted to share with you where we're at, and I think an important point to make is we've got a full team in place. I think that's really important. When Paul joined us as the director of the bus franchising, it really helps because we've got those experts who can actually work with us to actually forecast, and we can start to do some real thinking about what we need in terms as we go forward. And the strategy is all about trying to reflect that, as you've kindly pointed out. I think the other thing I'd really like to point out as well is from an inclusivity basis, we are also very conscious of the socio-economic policies that we are also developing at the same time, and how they are reflected here, including our own Fair Work Charter, which is, how are we bringing on apprentices into our organisation? How are we looking at people who have not been in employment for some time? So they are the next level, but they are being considered at this early stage as part of this too. the strategy is it's not something that sits in isolation. It's very much part of our business planning, and sort of Ruth and Kate's team and myself work really closely so that we've got a package that actually helps explain what we're doing and how we manage and what our KPIs are, how we can, what the affordability window is for that, and what resources and skills and talents we need. So we, again, I'd like to stress that this is something that's done in combination with absolutely everything else that we do, and working in partnership with across the corporate team. What we'll be looking to do at the next Combined Authority meeting is try and give a very first early indication of what some of those numbers look like in details in terms of skills and talent in specific areas. So again, as we mature, we're actually going to be going through what we've done here is done the very basic gap analysis of really understand our current position, look at what we need with our directors and all the people who are working with the heads of service in the organisation to identify what that roadmap looks like. And so we will be able to hopefully share a first level idea, but it's a live document, and it'll be something that we will be updating in line with our budgets on a quarterly basis, in line with business planning and KPIs. And finally, I think at a very high level, we've tried to demonstrate what a far more detailed action plan that sits behind this looks like as a project for further development across the organisation. So we're still at implementation stage, I think is what I'm saying, but we've made good progress, and hopefully any feedback or questions would be really welcome. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Asma.
Just looking at your summary action plan, good to see that there's the learning and development strategy. I think it's important to have a clear and concise career progression plan for development for anyone, and I think that probably needs in each, given the amount of different departments and how you're all structured, it can get lost in transit, I think. And I think every department needs a clear pathway for career progression, so everybody knows what that looks like and where they can apply for the next step up. And I think it's their example career pathways, but I think it needs to be more obvious than that as to where they can locate and find that for each step of career progression that they're looking for.
Jo.
Absolutely. So it's definitely something that I can send you after the meeting, but we have a framework where we've got our people strategy across the top, and then some anchor strategies, and flowing from that are very clear policies and action, a number of different things. And resourcing and talent is one, and learning and our learning development strategy is another. And so it's got a project team who is completely pulling together all of those strands, and where we do work with other combined authorities to compare very close relationships, particularly with Manchester and West Midlands because of our PTF connection, but we work with South Yorkshire and a number of other people to try and actually benchmark and balance that as well, and where can we support one another. Just to give you some reassurance, that's also been significantly reviewed at the same time, as is our employee relations and our leadership.
And I guess I'm coming from the perspective of where you're bringing in ethnic minority and to encourage leadership applications through career progression. I'd like to see a route that's inviting and what that looks like. So when I say it needs to be a bit more transparent for everyone to be, it also needs to be user-friendly and encouraging.
Absolutely. So it's something I can look forward to sharing with you.
Presumably that matrix way of working does aid and abet that, though. as well?
Absolutely. So, and on many levels. So that's around real good accountability in terms of how it links into where people are working and where their time is going. But it's also giving people that opportunity to move around should they wish to do that. And that's a real strength in terms of development. And technological advancements are also factored into here as well. You know, the use of different tools and systems, AI, those kind of things are all being reviewed as part of this because they're going to fundamentally change the way we work.
Jocelyn?
Following on from that point, the digital transformation point, I mean, this is my area, so obviously I'm concerned about it, but as you said, the digital creation team is based on fixed term funding, and then you end up with contract work, and then there's no career path. What's being done to change that and to embed it more in the organisation?
So it links to what Kate was saying earlier in terms of how we're actually structuring our projects from that capital funding perspective and and revenue. So that gets reviewed very, very thoroughly each time. So there are a significant amount of people who remain in the organisation, who look after business as usual, and who are principally there in terms of that very steady platform. So areas like our service help desk and how and where the operation of our systems, they sit within a revenue-based budget area. It's more around when we do have people who are in the digital team who are working specifically on bus franchising, who are working because they're building customer information links and screens and all sorts of things like that. That's the area where retaining and maintaining those people. Now, to date, often, if this is your experience, as you are. Digital technology just grows. As you're coming to the end of some projects, the world has moved on and there are more. And that is often how we try to manage that situation, by retaining some of those people, by actually talking to them early enough and getting them involved in what the next stages of the development might look like. And that is one way that we try to combat it in here. I think also sometimes you just need different, like you say, it gives movement to bring in different people and different skills, but it's a tight area in the market, so we prefer to hang on to them, to be perfectly honest. So actually, some of the work that Kate's doing in terms of how we're organising our financial strategy will help us with that particular problem, as well as where we go to market. Our apprenticeship and graduate schemes are really important here too, and that is something that, again, as a flow through from this, we're reviewing significantly how we are policies that fit with that, in terms of where and how many. Our apprenticeship scheme's really positive at the moment, but we're working on improving that even further. So we do have a significant amount, about 150 apprenticeships. Not all of them are new into the organisation. They are people who we are developing. We're using the apprenticeship scheme to actually develop people who are already in, and this is another place where we can look to try and close some of the gaps in that area. But any other best practice is very welcome, is what I would say.
Any other comments? No? Okay. So our members are content to note progress on the approach to resourcing and talent strategic priorities, and note the alignment of this approach with the combined authorities' transition to a delivery-focused operating model, and support the implementation of the strategic workforce plan and associated governance. We are, thank you. Right, moving on to the last item, which is the Treasury Management update. I mean, this report shows that our investment activities are performing well, with returns in line with the budget, and no borrowing was needed during this period, a strong indicator of our financial resilience. It's also reassuring to see that the Combined Authority has operated within all prudential and treasury indicators, and creditworthiness continues to be closely monitored to safeguard public funds. Looking ahead, the Combined Authority remains well positioned to respond to changes in interest rates, inflation and wider economic conditions, maintaining a steady course whilst protecting value for West Yorkshire. So Kate, can I ask you to take us through the recommendations, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As we've outlined, this is our quarter one, so we have a requirement to report to you quarterly on our performance against our prudential indicators in there. So I'm pleased to report that they have been adhered to at Q1. As outlined, we have taken no new borrowing in the year to date. At the moment, I am not anticipating that we will need to undertake any new borrowing this year. There are a number of Combined Authority projects that are being worked through that would require borrowing in future years, and will be coming to board over kind of the next sort of 12 months. And that will, if at that time, obviously include what that impact is, and we'll then be able to factor that into the wider financial plans. I'm pleased to see actually that we are on track in terms of our investment income, etc. At the moment, economic conditions are quite challenging. It would be fair to say out there, I think the word unprecedented has probably become relatively overused in the last 4 or 5 years. But I think, kind of talking to our Treasury management experts, it is a very challenging environment for them at the moment. The market is changing quite significantly and is impacted quite often for them by things that they cannot foresee out there. So strong performance so far, and obviously we will be back at the next quarter to report to you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? No? Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. So are members then content to note the Combined Authority's Treasury Management performance for quarter one, and note the revised prudential indicators for 25-26, along with compliance with all indicators for the first quarter? Yes, thank you. Okay, well that is the end of the meeting. Thank you very much. The next meeting is on the 27th of November, and I therefore close the meeting. Thank you.